By the end of this presentation, you should be able to identify the effects on family structure and how it manipulates developmental stages, the different ways legal stress affects people of different ages, and be able to reflect on the impact that you can make on how to improve these families' lives.
We are an organization called Families for Freedom, or FFF, which is a New York-based, multi-ethnic human rights organization by and for families facing and fighting deportation. Founded in September of 2002, we at FFF seek to repeal the deportation laws that are tearing apart our homes and neighborhoods, and subsequently breaking vital family bonds that affect the physical, cognitive, and emotional development of all the members of the affected family. Our goal is to provide a guiding voice in the growing movement for immigrant rights as human rights, build the power of immigrant communities and families, and to provide any kind of possible support and education to the family members that have been left behind due to the deportation of a loved one.
To understand why we care so much about the impact deportation has, let's look at some historical context. In 1996, the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act and the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act expanded the offenses for which a person can be deported. The 2001 Patriot Act made it so that decades-old misdemeanors qualify as incriminating enough evidence to merit deportation, which makes it harder for immigrants to both stay in and re-enter the USA. Between 1997 and 2007, 108,000 parents of American children were deported. These parents were often sent to an entirely different part of Mexico than they came from, and had to make without any money, identification, or food.
Through this presentation, we plan on educating our new prospect volunteers about the physical, cognitive, and emotional developmental hurdles that are experienced by all the family members of those who have been deported back to their native country. We hope that this presentation sets a foundation for successful relations and team building with the victims that we will be working with. According to current estimates, there are approximately 4.5 million U.S. citizen children living in mixed-status families, or families wherein at least one of the family members is legally authorized to be in this country and one is not. The negative effects that come from the deportation of a parent are very detrimental to the emotional development of young children. Not only are these children more prone to behavioral and emotional problems during their young development, but their future emotional lives are also very affected. Given the multiple stresses that affect the lives of unauthorized families, the children of deported parents are more likely to report high levels of anxiety, sadness, anger, fear, withdrawal, and post-traumatic stress symptoms. Also, these kids are 2.5 times more likely to experience mental health problems than those kids without deported parents. Children with either one or two deported parents are 3 to 4 times more likely to be involved in delinquent behaviors due to the lack of sufficient parental guidance. A child's sense of security is rooted in relationships with familiar caregivers, and the secure base that this provides establishes a sound foundation for the healthy cognitive development of children. With the lack of one or even two parents due to their deportation, a child's cognitive development begins to become impaired. Studies have shown that the children of undocumented parents are at greater risk for developmental delays and low school readiness levels. U.S. citizen children who have one or more undocumented parents are also seen to have less years of schooling than the average child. Not only this, but the anxiety and stress of having an undocumented parent can have profound and lasting consequences on the child's ability to thrive in the classroom as well. All these factors combine to result in a significantly decreased cognitive development level. Not only this, but the anxiety and stress of having an undocumented parent can have profound and lasting consequences on the child's ability to thrive in the classroom as well. All these factors combine to result in a significantly decreased cognitive development level. On a physical level, the children with either deported parents or with parents that are living in this country illegally are less likely to be medically insured, less likely to have seen a physician in the past year, and less likely to be reported as being in overall good health. Unfortunately, these children are also less likely to have good eating, sleeping, and exercise habits. According to a study conducted in 2010, the most common short-term effects of having had a parent deported are changes in eating habits, especially loss of appetite, and sleeping changes, like nightmares. At the Erickson lifespan stage of early childhood, usually between the ages of 5 and 12, children struggle between industry and inferiority. Children are at the phase where they will be learning to read and write, to do sums, and to make things on their own. At this point, the child now begins to feel like they need to win approval by showing specific competencies that are valued by society, and if they are successful, they will begin to develop a sense of pride in their own accomplishments. Children need encouragement and reinforcement for their initiative to succeed in this stage. In a case where the parent is missing from the life of the child, like in situations where the parent has been deported, the lack of paternal encouragement can cause a child to begin doubting his own abilities and therefore may not reach his or her potential. If the child cannot develop the specific skill they feel society is demanding, for example, competence in academic areas, they may develop a sense of inferiority. Similarly, according to the Bingham and Stryker theory of socio-emotional development, children up to the age of 8 struggle with developing a hardy personality. According to this theory, children must feel in control of their own life, must be committed to specific activities, and look forward to challenge and opportunity for growth. In order to acquire the hardy personality, these 3 C's must be met: control, commitment, and challenge. According to Bingham and Stryker, to reach these 3 C's, you must be able to recognize and tolerate your anxiety and act anyway, separate fantasy from reality and tackle on reality, and set goals and establish priorities. This might be seriously challenging for children who are dealing with higher than normal levels of stress and anxiety due to the deportation of a loved one.
Adolescents with deported parents often end up in low economic urban neighborhoods with high violence rates, having been related to unhealthy outcomes in adolescence such as increased delinquency, increasing depression, lower school achievement, higher levels of illegal behavior, physical violence, and overall poorer adolescent functioning. School connection and family support were related to better mental health functioning in adolescents who were growing up in neighborhoods with violence. In addition, healthy close relationships with peers and family also were protective factors. Even in the midst of growing up in neighborhood violence, youth can have a positive outcome if aspects of their context are safe and supportive. Darling and Steinberg demonstrate that youth who grow in contexts of healthy peers, such as peers who are successful in school and do not participate in risk behaviors, are more likely to have healthy outcomes. These adolescents, though, lack these opportunities due to households that fall apart and inflicts conflict to the rest of their lives. These children face these obstacles with the added pressure of knowing that their lives could be disrupted at any time. They face a unique psychological trauma that is largely driven by fears of family separation, arrest, detention, deportation, or simply being revealed as being in the country without requisite documentation. They never experience a chance to explore their identity because growing up happens a lot faster for them. Growing up in a climate of fear, distrust, and in the shadows impacts them negatively. They sometimes aren't even able to develop the stage before that, industry versus inferiority. Thus, they cannot move on to building their own identity. Research has found that children in immigrant families begin to associate all immigrants with a legal status, and to associate being illegal with being a criminal. As a result, they may reject their own immigrant heritage. Bingham and Stryker adolescent stages involve the skill building for self-esteem for ages 13 to 16. During this stage, they are supposed to be obtaining a feeling of being worthy, deserving, entitled to assert needs and wants, and develop confidence in their ability to cope with life events, which is the main development task for this age group. But these milestones are difficult to surpass in adolescents under the pressure of potential deportation-associated risks. These children instead usually lack confidence because of the instability of the uncertainty of their family unit and compensate by often joining gangs to gain a sense of self-worth. Their self-esteem, instead of stemming from their own ideals, becomes intertwined with their gang's identity, thus limiting their own need to learn proper skill-building techniques, thus limiting their ability to gain self-esteem outside of the negative social group. Their self-esteem also suffers because they do not feel entitled in the United States because they are often criticized with racial slurs because of different family lifestyles and ideas, which creates clashes. They are unable to obtain the proper skills needed to create a healthy self-esteem because of the lack of resources available to them. Due to the social isolation that is both inflicted on them and caused by their own reservation from an ununderstanding population, adolescent social skills are greatly lacking in this age group. Later in life, the children of incarcerated parents are more likely to have substance abuse problems, be unemployed, and to experience poor romantic relationships, divorce, and separation from their own children. In the wake of parental incarceration, adolescents must deal with sequels of traumatic separation, loneliness, stigma, how to explain the separation to children, strained parenting, reduced family income, unstable child care arrangements, and a home and school instability and transitions. Due to demand on growing up faster in a high-stress environment, a sense of autonomy must develop sooner in the attempt of adolescents trying to sustain and provide for themselves and families when parents are deported. A sense of resilience increases from the average adolescent related to the added stressors in their lives which force them to adapt. But human flourishing is diminished as they lack the ability to reach vital stages of development which without impedes their ability to live to their fullest capacity. These children are at risk for early sexual activity due to economic disadvantages and contraceptive use is diminished. If nutritional needs aren't met due to low socioeconomic status, its common puberty can be delayed in both genders. This can also be related to stress. The hormonal and physiological changes which occur in puberty cause more tension on the adolescents during an already unstable situation. They react stronger to stressful events, show heightened sensation-seeking, and risk-taking behaviors. Loss of parents due to deportation can cause physical stress on the body with many somatic symptoms which can vary from individuals.
Next, we will focus on the effect that the risk of deportation has on early adults, specifically parents who are at risk of leaving their families behind in America. In order to understand the developmental consequences, we must first look at the cognitive, physical, and psychological developmental stages. According to the National Immigration Law Center, a very small percentage go to college, partially due to their lack of resources and poverty, as well as a fear of being discovered. College is unattainable for many because applications and attendance require a social security number. A lack of education has profound consequences on an early adult's cognitive development. Most importantly, post-formal thought is affected. Post-formal thought is defined as rational, flexible, and practical ways of thinking that accept uncertainty and vary across situations. Those with education scored higher on a post-formal thought measure, reflecting an increased openness to experience and a tendency towards relativistic thinking, which emphasizes that there is a diversity of opinions on many topics and that there are multiple truths relative to each context. Early adults who cannot attain higher education due to a fear of deportation are less likely to hit developmental milestones. With regards to physical development, parents face certain health issues due to their undocumented status. The Pew Center analysis found that the immigrant birth rate was 87.8 live births per every 1,000 women of childbearing age, compared to 58.9 for Native women. Although early adulthood women have normal fertility development, their health status is threatened when they become pregnant. Due to a fear of being discovered, immigrant women are less likely to go to a hospital and receive appropriate medical care. Overall, early adults are less likely to have consistent healthcare providers, and furthermore, because of their reluctance to obtain healthcare services, many parents do not understand how to benefit from services like Medicare even if they were eligible. As a result, the parents are more susceptible to diseases and illness that affect the whole family, and are unable to receive adequate healthcare. 28% of all low-income families are immigrant families. It is important to note that poverty makes a family more susceptible to diseases, less likely to exercise and have a good diet. Undocumented parents and their families have a higher level of food insecurity. Our organization must be able to work with parents to relieve their stress. They need to know how to obtain proper health care. One of our jobs will be working on applying for eligibility. We must also help parents with their nutritional status and provide support so that they and their families can have proper nutrition. Next, we will look at the risk of deportation on the emotional and psychological development in early adults. First, we will explore the effects on the adult who acts as the caregiver in the family. Because a number of immigrants have limited English skills, they may be unable to help their children with schoolwork or read to them. These parents also worry that their immigrant status affects their children. Parents have reported that their legal status affects how their child feels, how their child performs at school, how the parents themselves feel, and their ability to provide financially for their child. It is a challenge for parents to communicate with their children about what may happen if they are deported. With regards to their lives outside of their families, they are more likely to experience distress if they don't have a legal United States ID. Without an ID and a social security number, adults have to choose from jobs that do not require an ID, most likely jobs that are minimum wage with few opportunities for a promotion. Because these parents are afraid of deportation, they cannot make solid plans for the future. Their possible selves are then limited to what are feasible, safe, and inconspicuous. Their limited possible selves and employment possibilities inhibit their ability to engage in extended explorations of work, education, and personal values. Given these impediments, along with an inability to travel or participate in national or international service programs, they may experience hindrances to the development of a more complex self-concept. Furthermore, they cannot balance breadth and depth of personality in the same way those with legal status can, because those who are undocumented have to prioritize their safety and discretion above all else. Ultimately, many adults are at risk of not thriving in their early adulthood developmental stages. According to Erickson's stage of intimacy versus isolation, In order to pass this developmental milestone, people need to develop and explore close, committed relationships. While parents may forge a close bond with their family over their shared secret, because they may be reluctant to reveal this secret to others, they will feel isolated from other aspects of their community, including local law enforcement, administrations, and higher-ups at work who could have served as mentors. Because of this isolation, early adults cannot fully develop intimacy. Furthermore, they may not feel contentedness in personal accomplishments and in their relationships, as is necessary to achieve Bingham and Stryker's stage of satisfaction in work and love.